Jewish lawmakers from 8 countries are in Israel this week, taking part in the World Jewish Congress conference being held in Jerusalem. The delegation was made up of 12 parliamentarians from Chile, Brazil, Canada, United States, Belgium, France, Romania, Hungary, and Ukraine. And they all met with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior Israeli officials and were briefed on the latest security concerns and policy measures that Israel is undertaking. Our I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev met up with the leader of the delegation, the U.S. Congressman Eliot Engel, and heard his thoughts on the developments in the Middle East. Let's take a look.
Congressman Engel, thank you very much for speaking with us. You're in Israel heading a delegation of Jewish lawmakers, and generally you are out in front on Jewish and pro-Israel issues. You are one of the lone Democrats who voted against the Iran deal. Have you suffered any repercussions in your party following that vote?
No, and even if I did, I wouldn't care. Obviously, you don't want repercussions, but if you need to get them at the cost of your conscience, it's an easy choice for me. I did not support the Iran deal because I believe that Iran is not only an existential threat to Israel, but a threat to many of the countries in the Middle East. I think their behavior of the past 20 or 30 years has not shown them to want peace. And what worries me most about the agreement is Iran gets a lot of money. The sanctions are removed. It was sanctions that brought Iran to the table to begin with. And now that you remove the sanctions and you give them money, they can do so many bad things with that money. For the past several years, their economy was terrible. Their currency was in shambles. Unemployment was high, and yet they had no money, and yet they still found enough money to be the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. I think on votes like this, you have to vote your conscience. You can't vote what most of your party wants or what anybody else wants. You have to sit down as a legislator and really you're actually voting on issues that are life and death. Now there are people who disagree with me, and I hope they're right and I'm wrong, but I couldn't in good conscience vote for that bill.
The Israeli Prime Minister has been accused of creating a partisan wedge in his opposition to the Iran deal. Is there a long-lasting damage to that disagreement, or is it already bygones?
Well, I think that the relationship between Israel and the United States is a very important relationship, and it's always been a bipartisan relationship. And so I reject the fact that people say this party is better than that party in support of Israel, or the Prime Minister is leaning towards this party. I don't think any of that is true, and I certainly don't think it's relevant. Israel and the United States have a lot in common, namely democracy, namely values. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. In Congress, there are 435 members, 19 are Jewish. So it's a very small minority, and of the 19, 18 of the 19 are Democrats. So we need to rely on those of us who are pro-Israel and work very hard, as I do, to support Israel and promote the Israel-U.S. relationship. We have to rely on a lot of our friends in both parties, mostly who are not Jewish. And that has always been the strength of the support for Israel. It's always been bipartisan. And we need to keep it that way. What I'm concentrating on most with the Iran deal now is to make sure that Iran lives up to its responsibilities under that deal. You know, Iran doesn't just get everything it wants, it has to have some responsibility. And I intend to hold their feet to the fire. When they support terrorism, I want them sanctioned. When they do other things that don't contribute to the peace process or peace, I want them sanctioned.
But is Israel losing part of the Democratic Party?
Well, it's people like me. I'm in the Democratic Party, and I have no intention of leaving. And I believe in the Democratic Party. I believe in social justice. I think that's what the Democratic Party stands for. And I don't believe it's incompatible whatsoever with strong support for Israel. And there are a lot of people that feel the same way like me. I am progressive when it comes to social policy, but I'm strong when it comes to national defense and protecting our allies like Israel. And for me, it's also a personal thing because I'm an American Jewish person. The truth of the matter is when the United Nations was trying to pass Security Council resolutions against Israel, the United States vetoed it. They vetoed it under President Obama, vetoed it under President Bush. It's been constant in both parties. When Israel needed support for the Iron Dome, President Obama was there. and was very supportive. So I think that we tend to sometimes look at these things in sort of one or two issues, but we really need to look at it in a broader way, because I think there is strong support for Israel from all parties, and I don't think the Democratic Party is alienated from Israel. There may be a few individuals, but the vast majority of Democrats strongly support Israel.
Let's move from Iran to Syria. Donald Trump's comments about banning Muslims' entry into the United States created a huge public uproar. But even members of your own party voted to limit accepting Syrian refugees. Is this all fear and panic, or maybe it has to do with racism and Islamophobia?
It's a little bit of all those things, I think. Certainly fear and panic is the main thing that's really driving people. And I think some of that is understandable. But I think we have to take a look at things, and we have to say, what is the best way to react to them? You know, America has always been a welcoming country. It doesn't mean you open the borders and you just let everybody in. I mean, obviously there are laws, and we establish these laws, and this is what we do. But, you know, my grandparents were refugees to the United States before World War I. They all came from present-day Ukraine. And my father's side came to America in 1913, and my mother's side in 1907 and 1908. If my family hadn't come and they had remained in Europe, they would have all been killed in the Shoah. So having the United States welcoming my family in, I don't think we react to these things by slamming the door at other people. Now, it doesn't mean we let everybody in, and they have to be well vetted. And we've got right now the vetting process takes anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years. So it's not as if someone applies to come to the United States from Syria today and tomorrow they're admitted. And that's what the people who were complaining about it, you know, were indicating, and that's really not true. So it's understandable. And then you take Donald Trump, who comes out with demagogic statements, not only on refugees, but on other things as well. That's kind of the way he operates. And unfortunately, it moves him up in the polls, because there's always a certain amount of people who think like him. But, you know, a lot of these people are fleeing from ISIS. They've been victims of ISIS. It's not like they're ISIS. Yes, I'm furious with the terrorists. Yes, we have to defeat the terrorists, Daesh, ISIS, whatever you call them, Hamas, Hezbollah. They're all cut from the same cloth. But it doesn't mean that you just slam the door in people's faces. And so I think that we can act smarter than the way we've acted, and I'm confident we will.
Okay, Congressman Engel, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Anytime.